to another edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and tonight I'm pleased to have on a man who is not only an ECW original, but has quite a number of interesting stories from his career in the military. But notwithstanding all of that, he is a definite ECW original, a man who knows about the time frame of ECW when he was there, a particular interest of mine. Want to welcome Chili Willy. Chili, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Jack. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
What time is it there?
Who is 8? Wait, I can't see my time clock. What time is it there? 7. What time you got there? Yeah, 7:52 in the morning.
So it's a 12-hour difference. Yes, thanks very much for coming on at this early hour. What I'd like to start off with is the fans are interested in your particular background as a fan. And the last time we spoke, I know you had mentioned that you indeed were a fan of professional wrestling back in the day. And if you could let the fans know exactly what that entails, that would be great.
Yeah. Back in the day, man. Like I said, my last interview, if you tuned in or whatever, I started out being a fan back in the 70s, late 70s. I was young. I was a young kid, 8 years old, 9 years old. Watching Ric Flair, Mid Atlantic, NWA. Flair and Ricky Steamboat was in it. And things like that. Wahoo McDaniels, and So that's what really got me into pro wrestling as a young kid. And then also watching WWF at the time. Bob Backlund, Pedro Morales, Don Morocco, Tony Atlas, guys like that. So both the North and the South on the East Coast, that's what I was watching. Jim Crockett Promotions and then WWF at the time. And that's what really got me going in pro wrestling. I thought it was something, I can't use the F word, but I thought it was something that was, like boxing, like fighting, and real. I'm just gonna say it. I just thought it was really real, and I believed that for years. I was like, wow, and those guys were like superheroes to me, and then some of the guys were villains, Jesse Ventura and guys like that, and so it was just something that intrigued me when I was a young kid. That's just something I really, really wanted to do. I have never seen anything like it. Growing up watching, Batman and Robin and things like that as a kid, and then here you go, you actually see these guys. They're wearing tights, and I'm thinking, oh, hold up, they're wearing tights. It was like it's, no one was wearing a cape, but guys were coming out like Ric Flair with robes on and things like that. And the way he talked, it was like it just made you believe that he could actually do what he said he was going to do. And growing up as a young kid, I was small, skinny. I was scared of a lot of things, and it was just like, even though he was a heel at that time, it was like, wow, Chili. Sorry, my dog. It was just, he just made you believe, and then it was like that he could do what he actually said he was going to do, even though he was a bad guy. And then on the flip side, when I would go and I would watch WWF and watch like guys like Bob Backlund, who was mild mannered, but he was a champion for a long time. Him, Pedro Morales, and guys like that. They were like, not as boisterous, but could get in there and just go. They can just go, And I was like, wow, that's just something I wanted to do, and it just took me a while to do it, but I finally did it. Thank God.
Yeah, in terms of, I know this is difficult because you just laid out a wide spectrum of folks that you watched and admired. But if you could boil that down to a single wrestler that put that that seed in your mind that I want to do this for a living? Could you do that?
Yeah, it was Ric Flair, and like I said, but because I grew up in New Jersey with my grandmother, and my brothers lived in North Carolina. So during the summertime, I would go back and forth, and uh, and sometimes I would go to North Carolina, and then during the fall I would be in New Jersey in school, for school. So whenever I go to North Carolina, I would watch, like I said, the NWA, and there was a lot of guys there who I liked, but who stood out to me the most was Ric Flair. But when I was in New Jersey, who stood out to me the most was probably between Bob Backlund and you know Snuka or Pedro Morales, something like that. But definitely in North Carolina, Ric Flair stood out. Even though he was a heel, he just stood out. It was just. I'm gonna go a little bit. I'm all over the place, but here, like 2023, you have these guys out here like LA Knight who's doing his thing. You know what I mean? And he gets flack from people, talking about how he was like imitation of The Rock and Stone Cold. Well, you got to go way back. I mean, because Flair was doing that back in the '70s. I mean, people talk about The Rock and they talk about Stone Cold, how they could, talk on the mic. But that's the younger generation who probably didn't even know or never even watched NWA. I mean, yeah, NWA Mid Atlantic back in the day. Um, and I'm telling you, Flair was flamboyant and he could rock the microphone. He would make you think that he would knock you out. I mean, just by being on television. I mean, he was just flashy, and he was, to me, at that time in the '70s, I'm talking '78, '79, '80. I mean, he was The Rock then. He was
Mm-hmm.
Stone Cold then. You
Mm-hmm.
know, not even Hogan when he came in the game could talk like that. You know what I mean? Hogan, yeah, he had but Flair was like, if you saw him in a bar and the way he talked would be like that's how he would talk in a bar before he got drunk or he got drunk. So it was just, I was just like mesmerized, as a kid, because he kind of talked to you like almost like a if your father was gonna tell you he's gonna whoop your behind, that's how Flair would talk. You better you. I'm telling you right now, he would like go from 0 to 100 like in a second, and it's like, oh man, this guy, and so he was the one really out of all the wrestlers that I've seen on television, he was the one that stuck out to me. Like that I want to be like that guy right there.
Definitely can relate. In terms of his last match last year, what were your thoughts on that? Well, I'm not going to say the performance, because that I think was universally agreed that it was unfortunate, but the fact that he chose to have a quote
Mhm.
unquote last match at such an advanced age and physical state.
Well, I didn't really see it. I heard about it or whatever. You know, wrestling. This is it's a drug to us. You know what I mean? Once you get in it is literally like a drug. You cannot stop doing it. You know what I mean? You don't want to stop. Even if the promotions or promoter has been bad to you or whatever, you just want to get in there, perform in front of the crowd. You want that's it. Once it gets in your blood, man, I'm telling you, it's just like being on the drug. So I can understand his motivation for wanting to do it and keep wanting to do it. Um, I thought the match that he had with Shawn Michaels should have been his last.
Mm,
You know what I mean? That to me was it. That was done.
mm,
But like I said, if you're a wrestler, you would not, unless you're a wrestler really in the ring and doing it, you would never really know how it feels to just keep going. And so Yeah, he probably should have stopped a long time ago, but I understand. You know, for being a champion and being on top for as long as he's been, bro, that guy, I mean, I don't know him personally. I don't know what he's like outside the ring or anything like that. Um, but you cannot you cannot just set things down or just stop doing what you're doing for being on top that long. Like I said, we're talking 1978 when I first started seeing him wrestle. I don't know
Mm.
exactly the day he started wrestling, but I know it was in the 70s. So
72, I think. In
yeah,
there.
yeah. So
Mm.
I mean, come on, that's a long time to be working, brother, and still be on top. In a sense, he's been on top everywhere he's been. Ric Flair has been on top, and so yeah, it's kind of hard to be, just to sit down. It's like being a king, I guess. It's kind of hard to just, give up your throne. But he should have done it. Like I said, he should have done it when he wrestled Shawn Michaels. That was it, But it is what it is.
So you had this very solid background as a fan. You had the benefit of seeing the major promotions at the time. You make the decision to pursue wrestling, but you were in athletic pursuits prior to that and doing some actual um, legitimate fighting, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
What was the I would say if you could talk about your training process and how that came about, what would you say would be the most you know I'm not going to say interesting, but engaging part of your training that would stand out to say how it's done today at the Performance Center, or to take an example
You mean as a shoot fighter or just pro wrestler?
for wrestling.
Ah, um, well, like I was trained by C.W. Anderson, and then there's another guy who also helped train me, Gary Simone. So it wasn't long. It wasn't a long process going into training. My my actual first time I stepped in the ring was in Paulsboro, New Jersey, at the Monster Factory, and that was like on a tryout basis. That one night, I got in the ring for like 15 minutes. That was it. But it wasn't until I went to the power plant in '96 to try it out for those 3 days. But then when I got to actually train with C.W. Anderson, um, the training, I mean, it was hard. It was hard training, the bumping, um, learning the ins and outs of you know um, the strikes, because you have to learn those. There's
Mm.
those you just don't go in and just start knocking jokers out. You know what I mean? Then you're known as being stiff, which I was known as being stiff a little bit. Uh, it was just I don't know. It was just something that I was a bouncer for a long time before I started wrestling. Um, I had gotten some fights, but not a lot of fights, But it was learning that part of it is hard. It's kind of hard, and making it look like it's a real thing that you're supposed to do. Because I always say, man, wrestlers, we are like fighting clowns. You know what I mean? Um, I had to say that. We're not really doing this like the real UFC or boxing like that, because we got to go back out the next night and do the same thing over and over again. There are some of us that can actually legitimately fight, and then there's some of us that can't. You know what I mean? But when you see us perform, we're all supposed to look like we can go. Like we can do it. When I used to train my students here in the Philippines, I told them, look, you gotta make it look real. You gotta make it look real. Your body has to look like a wrestler. It should look like a wrestler. Growing up, and I see guys, big guys, Snooker, Tony Atlas, Rocky Johnson, those guys. There were some big guys. You know what I mean? Even guys like Don Morocco, big. But you don't hardly see those guys now that look like that in pro wrestling, and that makes it the illusion of it makes it look like, oh, them are some big jokers. You wouldn't want to mess with those guys. You know what I mean? And so the training part of it also, you really should know how to take a bump. You know what I mean? Take a headlock. Learn some shoot wrestling. You know, it's gonna help you. It would help you. And so CW taught us that, and then some of the things that he didn't teach because he left to go to ECW. You know, you just learn on the fly with other wrestlers. You know, and that's the part of it. You know, you're only as good as your other opponent allows you to be. So it's not a thing where I'm the best. This, you know, you're only good because that other person knows how to sell or knows how to the timing of the match or know when this is coming and how to execute that. So that training, all of that timing, knowing where to put the things are, you know, knowing the psychology of it, all of that plays a big part in pro wrestling.
Yeah, and that was kind of my long-winded, circuitous point. Do you feel that your focus on learning to make it look legitimate and an actual combat, but not actually, of course, doing that? Do you think that the business, and not speaking about smaller organizations or facilities, but do you think the business has suffered, at least in the major organizations, by kind of abandoning that you picked up, no doubt, in your training, that realism?
Yeah. I think, you know, pro wrestling is like anything else. It really should be licensed, you know, in all states. You know, just because even me, just because I've been a wrestler or whatever, um, I still think that it should be licensed for as should be taught by someone who's been there, you know, and not just a person that maybe had a couple of matches and then, or just someone who never had a match, just woke up one day because maybe he has some money or she has some money and it's like, "Oh, I want to start a wrestling promotion." And then they said, "Dad, Mom, you know, can we put a ring up in our garage and you know we just start, you know, teaching?" And a lot of people have done that, and I think that kind of really messes up the performance of you know what we do. And you know it's like you just can't wake up and say, well you could wake up and say, well, I'm going to be a UFC fighter, and then you get out there, never been taught, and get out there and get your ass whooped. You know what I mean? I mean, literally get slayed. You know, and so I think the same thing goes with wrestling. Um, you really need to. I think it should be licensed. You know, and it should be taught by true professionals. You know, just
Mhm.
that's just me. That's just my opinion. Um, and when I did it, it was like, you know, I enjoyed teaching, but I knew I had some experience. You know, going from uh, ECW, then going to Ohio Valley Wrestling, being contracted by WWE. So I have a little bit of experience. You know, I don't have a lot. I'm not like a big guru or whatever, but I do have a little bit of experience of pro wrestling. And I think that I could get a person from zero to probably 99, 100. You know, just to get into that door of pro wrestling. But it's a hard thing. It's not an easy task, and it needs to be taught well and taught right. I think, especially the psychology of it. That's the thing, the psychology of it.
Absolutely. You mentioned you were trained by C.W. Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
You did some work. You also, to start out, and were with Omega for a while, the Hardy promotion, and then, sorry.
No. I only worked with Omega maybe once.
Okay,
Yeah,
only one.
yeah, yeah, maybe once or twice. I didn't. That wasn't on because they're like on the. They're like farther away from us on the East Coast of North Carolina. They're more like in I don't know. It just took a while to get there, so I didn't really wrestle for them that much when I was coming up or whatever. And their promotion had just started well when I kind of got into ECW. So it was like maybe once or twice I think I wrestled for them. So yeah, but I know them well. I know them.
Absolutely. So then, can you tell the fans about how you made the initial foray into ECW and whether you have any notable interactions with Mr. Paul Heyman?
Yes, like I was wrestling on the Indies in North Carolina, in the Raleigh, Durham area. We would wrestle for a promotion called SCW at the time. Count Grog, that's the promoter. Greg Grog, he's still living there in Raleigh. I think he still promotes. It's called Gals Wrestling now. If anybody wanted to look it up, but back then, he was doing a lot of bar shows in Raleigh, North Carolina, and you have guys coming like the Hardys, Shane Helms, Lodi, C Dub, you know, all of us, Joey Mercury, Christian York, would come in there and they would wrestle. Well, when I started wrestling, kind of got pushed in the mix with that crew a little bit. But those guys started taking off, like the Hardys started taking off the WWE and places like that. And so we would just wrestle a lot for SCW. And at the time, CW, when he was training me, when he left to go to ECW, one night particularly, him and Steve Carino, they came to one of the shows in Durham, and was wrestling there. He talked to me. He said, "Yo, we should bring you up to ECW, just check it out, and hang out." And that's how it started. And they took me out somewhere. I think it was Asheville, North Carolina, and to an ECW show, and then up in Baltimore or Washington. I'm not sure what exactly, and kind of tried out there. That's how I really got into ECW. It was one day right before the show started. I was doing workouts and saw Paul Heyman sitting down with Tommy Dreamer, and I was in the ring with somebody, and he messed up. This guy, he messed up. He did something wrong. I kind of yelled at him, not trying to blow him up or anything like that. It was just that he messed up the spot or something. And I didn't want to look, like I didn't know what I was doing. So kind of yelled at him, kind of got some heat on him a little bit. This was legitimate shoot heat, you know what I mean? And so after we calmed down and everything, Tommy pulled me aside and they tried me out for one night. Did a dark match, I think with Julio De Niro. And they liked it, and so there was the guys, the Baldy, Angel and the Vito. Those guys, they wanted to get off the ring crew, so they were looking for some new meat to get on the ring crew. And so Tommy, that's how he introduced me to getting into ECW. Didn't really meet Paul. I think I met him that night, I think a little bit, but not a lot. The conversation was very minimal, but nice. He was nice to me and everything. But I think he was dealing with other things, of course, big time wrestlers, like Rob Van Dam, Sandman, all those guys. And so it was just more interaction with Tommy Dreamer, and so he was the go between, I think, and that's how I got on. That's how I got on, was working with a ring crew and wrestling, and that was it. Put it in my dues.
Absolutely. Mr. Unknown wants to know, skipping ahead a bit, what was it like teaming with Balls Mahoney, the late great Balls, and what did you learn from him?
Balls, man. Awesome, funny guy, good friend. I wasn't intimidated by him at all. That was one thing when I went to ECW. I really wasn't intimidated by anyone. Um, New Jack kind of wasn't intimidated, but I was kind of like, ugh. But Balls took to me when Paul put us together. I don't know exactly when the exact day or night that he put us together, um, but he was just a fun guy in and out the ring. You know, more so out the ring, he was really like a big teddy bear, kid like guy. You know, in the ring, he knew his stuff. He knew where things needed to go. Um, I knew how to. I learned how to swing a chair from Balls. That
No
I can
doubt.
tell you that. I can tell you that. You know that joke can swing a chair. You know what I mean? And so I was really like mesmerized when I would see him. You know, come out and they sing. You know, everybody's chanting balls, 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 balls. I was like, wow, that was with all of the guys though. All the people in ECW, man. I was like, because I didn't know anything about ECW, but when I got in there, you know, I learned quickly. And Balls, once we got together and everything, man, he was cool, very cool guy, very cool guy.
Yeah, definitely memorable. In terms of your, if you could pin down the origin of, you had the everybody's homeboy gimmick. You're getting over. You were on TV. You had some pretty high profile matches.
Mm-hmm.
What did you know at the time that you were catching on with the fans and seemed to be being positioned in a a more and more high spot on the card?
Mm, not really. I was really satisfied with just being a curtain jerker. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't. The way ECW was structured was like you had your different sets. You know, like you had your top guys, middle guys, and then there was us, the ring crew guys, and so it was just it was one of those things where uh, by the time I started thinking that maybe a push could come, then ECW was like going here, with the money situation and Paul rumors of Paul leaving. Never a rumor of ECW closing, but it was just we think Paul is leaving, but we don't know what's going to happen. So at that time, for me, it was like, hey, I'm off the ring crew. I'm flying. I'm flying to different shows. So things must be getting better for me. For the rumors of ECW, those guys not getting paid, it doesn't affect me because I was getting paid cash. That's what I was thinking. And so I was thinking, well, by the time everything, you know, settles, maybe we'll be back to people being back on contract and everything. And so I was just looking at it as a positive thing, not knowing, that the end was there, And
Mm.
so um, when they started doing the Chili Willy, everybody's favorite homeboy, I didn't think of it as, I'm going to be the next ECW heavyweight champion. It was just I'm just right here in my element. I'm just everybody's favorite homeboy. If I was doing the show and I was never main event, it was fine with me. That was my take on it. You know what I mean? Um, Going out first, going out during the middle of the show, that was perfectly fine with me. I had no wasn't thinking about because like I said, I was green as green could be. So just to be in the mix in ECW was good enough for me at the time. Wasn't looking to elevate. I felt like a couple of years being in ECW would probably help me to get to that status, but at that point, I was just fine with just being a curtain jerker, man. Honing my skills and learning, how to wrestle and all that stuff.
So, can you talk about how you first got to do some work in the WWE right after ECW, and everybody's interested in if you have any engagement stories with Vince McMahon.
When did I do? I did dark match, 2 dark matches. I think that's all I've ever done in WWE, and both of those dark matches was with a good friend of mine named Pat Cusick, who wrestled. He was the indie guy. He did some work also with WWE, and all of that was before. It was right at the end of ECW era, and no, I didn't really meet Vince. I actually didn't even meet him during a dark match, and that's one of those things. Unless I guess they're gonna sign you at that point, you don't. You go up, you do maybe someone like I think Kevin Kelly at the time. He was in charge of something, but he was the one who got me into do the dark matches, and when you go into the arena that during the day, you go in like maybe 12 o'clock during the day. You have a section. They have talent, and then they have like the indie talent rooms in the back where you put your gear. And so once you put your gear down, then you go straight to catering. And in catering is where you meet everyone, or that's where everyone comes together, to eat, because you got to be there 1 o'clock or something like that, 12 o'clock. And so all your stars come in, everyone. Maybe even Vince may come in. But you're not gonna go up there and introduce yourself to Vince or whatever, unless he's standing right in front of you or right behind you while you getting your food. You're not gonna go to his table with him. He's sitting there with Jim Ross, Michael Hayes, Briscoes, whoever, the big guys, And so you just get your food, you keep it moving. You find your table, if someone comes to sit down and talk to you, hello, that's it. But when I did my dark matches in before I went to the military, that was how it was done. Guys like Kevin Kelly would come to me and he would tell you what's going on. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna do this. And that was it. And I didn't meet Vince McMahon until after I got out of the military, and I was getting signed to WWE. And I met him one night in Chicago. Met him. He was in it. Michael Hayes I got to the arena. Michael Hayes escorted me to the room. I think it was Michael Hayes or either John Laurinaitis, one of those two. Escorted me to the office of Vince McMahon. He was eating a sandwich, sitting there chilling, had his legs crossed, and I'm sitting there thinking, "Whoa, this is Vince McMahon." I was marking out. You know what I mean? Out of all the people in the arena, I'm marking out because this is $1 billion guy. You sitting there talking to $1 billion guy. I'm like, yo, And I watched this guy ever since I was a kid. Him first being a commentator, and now he's the owner. I'm like, dang, And so I'm sitting down talking to him, eating the sandwich, and he was like, thanking me for my service in the military, and telling me how he, is glad that I'm there, and they want to put me in. I think Paul Heyman was there because Paul was really the one who got me. In the WWE when I got out of the military, and so he was just saying, "Yo, we want you to get your body right," because I had a military body, not muscular, but not out of shape neither. You know what I mean? But when you sit there and talking to Vince McMahon, he knows what he's seeing right in front of you, and he's telling you, in so many ways. Get your body right. Get your body right. You know what I mean? No matter what, get your body right. So, and
Did you get Did you get the impression he was referring to, like, get your body right? In other words, get on the gas.
No doubt. Definitely get on the gas. You know what I mean? Because I think I was in the military. I went in at 250. I came out around 240-ish, something like that. But, with all the running and rucking and, being in war, you don't have time to really, we work out, but it's not like, crazy. More running and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah, he was like, he said, get your body right for television. That's exactly word. That was exact words. And so I knew what he was talking about. And so maybe a couple of weeks later, they sent me, Pritchard sent me a contract. I signed the contract and I went to OVW. And once I got to OVW, that's where you get your medicine. That's where you get your medicine. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how they like it. That's how he liked it. And that was it.
Did you find that surprising, given the fact that he had gone through that steroid scandal and Dr. Zahorian, and basically it sounds like the script never really changed. He never came right out and said, you need some Winstrol or test or whatever. But that was that's the code, like, get your body right or blah blah blah.
Yeah, he didn't say exactly. You like I said, you had to read between the lines. And the thing was, it wasn't like they just usher that stuff into you. You know what I mean? You have to pay for it yourself. You know what I mean? It's your responsibility to do. You didn't have to do it if you didn't want to. But if you want to make that type of money, you have to look a certain way because that's what you liked. You know what I mean? And they're not going to tell you we advocate this, we advocate that, but they're not going to deny it neither. You know what I mean? So it's sports entertainment. You got to get out there. You got to sell action figures. You can't sell no T-shirts, action figures with pot bellies and things like that. Unless you're Yokozuna, God bless his soul. But it's that's just what they wanted. That's what they were looking for. And speaking on that, it's different now how the wrestlers look versus back when I was growing up watching wrestling. Yep. When I was growing up watching wrestling, those guys looked like, all of them looked like they were pushing 250, 260. Now it's like you get guys in there 160, 180. Under 100, under 200 pounds. And so the times have changed when it comes to pro wrestling. When in the sides, you know what I mean? So I don't know if it's good or bad. I just knew that when I was growing up, that's what got me also into wrestling. Big Bohemian, Dino Bravo style, Ivan Putski, those guys jacked, just all of them jacked, big, and so now it's like everyone's looking like, I don't know, not everyone, but a lot of them looking like models and things like that. And it's like they look like Gap models and things, and, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's just how wrestling has changed and the dynamics of wrestling has changed. And so you see a guy like Kevin Owens, people think, why you gotta wear a T-shirt? Because back in the day he wouldn't wear a T-shirt. He just go in as KO, big belly, he do his thing. And no one cared, you know what I mean? But now it's like, if it's not the right type of looking body, cover it up. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's just how wrestling. And me being a wrestler, when I wrestled, I always wanted to look like that. I always wanted to look like the guys who I seen coming up, Ricky Steamboat, Flair. So I always wanted to wear tights. I wanted my body to look right. And then if there's times when my body didn't look right, of course I'll put on a T-shirt or something like that. But that's how it was.
You mentioned your tenure in Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is, the topic of discussion right now, given that Netflix docu-series. I don't know whether you've seen it or not, called Wrestler.
No.
It focuses on the current day OVW under Al Snow's tutelage, and the trials and tribulations of being an independent organization. Just wanted to know, back when you were in OVW, would you characterize it as a positive or negative experience for you?
I thought it was positive. My head wasn't right at the time, but I was in that class with Bobby Lashley, um, the Boogeyman, Beth Phoenix, Julian Hall, guys like that. And so it was, how can I say it? Coming from ECW, then going to Ohio Valley Wrestling, it was kind of something different because all the people that wrestled in ECW at that time, we didn't have a school. We were taught, differently or whatever from different people, but we didn't have a mass school like that, like a school where, got 20, 25 people in it. And so we learned or you honed your skills while you were doing the show at ECW. And so when I went to OVW, Nova was there also, um, as a student, and it's like, and I'm looking around like, yo, Nova used to do like main events and stuff, ECW, and why I didn't understand. I was like, why is he here? Why is he just not on on television doing his thing, which he was. But to take guys from other indie promotions and put them into a school like that, school setting, like to retrain them all over again, to me, at that time, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense, because I was coming from the military and I didn't know anything about OVW. It was something that just came up, and so I just didn't understand why guys like that would just be in a school and then have to wait and get picked to go to SmackDown or Raw. And but now I understand because WWE they have their own way of training and they have their own way of wanting you to know certain things. As not like before back in WWF when they didn't have an OVW or school like that. You just throw you in there. But now with the I guess the corporations and all the big money and television and ads and stuff like that, you gotta look right, know your keys, and far as we're going to commercial break. Here's this, here's that, here's this, and so I understood now. I understand now. I didn't understand then, but I understand now.
Wanted to have some rapid fire questions for you, just from social media and fan interactions. First one, I think you may have answered this one before about Kevin Kelly, but did you have any notable other road agent interactions in the WWE in the time that you were there?
When I got signed, Fit Finley was going to be my agent, but I washed out before that could even happen. I signed a contract with OVW. Then before I could even really get my wheels off the ground, I was let go. But I did, I would get, during Christmas time, get cards from Fit Finley. So I knew that he was going to wind up being my agent. And I wish I would have learned from him. You talk about somebody that can go. That took him, man. He could go. You know what I mean? Very underrated. So yeah, that was it. You would see people like Barry Windham, Arn Anderson at the time back then, but I didn't interact with them. If you were not their age, if you were not up under them, you really didn't interact with them. It was very strict. I don't know how it is now. Kind of like it's just strict in the sense of knowing your role, knowing your place, don't speak until you're spoken to, type of place. Yeah, you see people you may know from the indies or whatever, and yo, what's up? What's going on, Chili? But if you really haven't met that person, you just gonna back off. You don't want to say anything because any little thing that you say or do could get you in some heat. There, that's how I felt. You know what I mean? Any little thing. If they didn't like you the way, if they didn't like what you looked or what you talked, it could get you heat. So, while when they put up the ring before the venue opens, you get in there, you practice your moves and practice and everything, and they go over their matches, and so you're allowed to go in there, and if the top guys are in the ring, then you are outside on the apron just watching. You don't mess around. If you're in the ring, this is how it was. If you're in the ring, if me and you are in the ring and we're talking about our match, and we're gonna do dark match, or we're gonna open up, we're not on television yet. If me and you are already in the ring and we're just talking, and then someone like someone that's on television, if those two people come in, you get your ass out the ring and let them do their thing. You know what I mean? That's how it is. And but you see guys like Triple H come through and Stephanie come through and John Cena and them guys come through, and you can introduce yourself. How you doing? I'm William Jones. You don't go there. You say I'm Chili Willie. I'm William Jones. You say your name. And everything like that. So just things like that. You have to really know your role, like The Rock says. You really got to know your role. It is just that minute up there that you really got to know your role. And yeah. You don't want to be out of line in no aspect. Do not want to be out of line.
Yeah, nothing worse than the legendary silent heat there. You mentioned at the start of the interview that one of the folks that you watched growing up that was an influence with Ricky Steamboat. Wanted to know about your experience working with Ricky Steamboat Jr.
Oh, you said I thought you said talk about working with Ricky Steamboat himself. I've never met Ricky Steamboat. I wish I had, man. He was he's one of my idols too. His son, awesome. We had a tag match in NWA Charlotte, and he was just a good guy. Could work, kind of remind you of the young Ricky Steamboat. And I never knew to this day why he didn't make it. You know what I mean? I always thought that he was a sure foot in WWE or anywhere, and I don't know what happened.
He had a very serious injury. I believe it was his neck. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Don't quote me on the neck or back, and that was it. The doctors told him you can't do it anymore.
I was wondering about him because after me and my tag team partner, the Bounty Hunter, who's down in North Carolina, a great guy. Me and him, we went as the American Gangsters at that time. Actually, we had two gimmicks. We had the Black Necks and then American Gangsters. But we wrestled in Charlotte there, and man, we worked with Steamboat Jr. And we were both like, man, we were impressed with him. Good guy, man. Very quiet, very nice. Very nice guy, even in the back, man. He was just very nice, respectful, and I was marking out because he was Ricky Steamboat's son. I was like, this is the closest thing I get to Ricky Steamboat, you know what I mean? And so it's just one of those things you never know what can happen in your life, Me growing up watching Ricky Steamboat against Ric Flair, and then 30-something, 40 years later, I'm wrestling his son. I'm like, what the hell, So that was one of those things, man, that, I was marking out really because of his dad, So, but he was a good guy.
Yeah, for sure. You worked with Muhammad Hassan. Wanted to get your thoughts on that very controversial gimmick.
No. I didn't work with him. I think they were trying. I think Paul told me at the time they were trying to do something with him, because at that time I was still in the military. I was still in Iraq, when they were doing that gimmick, the Muhammad Hassan gimmick. And I think that was one of the reasons why I think Paul had in his mind, his vision, he tossed to WWE guys, officials. I got Chili Willy. He's just, in the military. Just, we can get him out of the military, and maybe they could do something like that. And that's what I was told. But I never got a chance to work with Muhammad Hassan. It was unfortunate that I didn't stay in long enough. But yeah, that was, I think, something on that lines. Like I said, I thought it was sort of like in my mind, I thought they were trying to do me like Booker T, like a GI Bro type gimmick. Because I remember I was still in the military. We had just got back from Iraq. I was in Fort Drum, New York. WWE flew me out, and my commanders in the military allowed me to go out because I was still on the U.S. government contract, and you're not really supposed to do that. So they let me out for the I think two or 3 days, and WWE flew me out, got me a ticket, got me a rental car, the whole nine. Flew into Ohio, and then the next night was Chicago, and both nights. No, one night they had me down to do a promo. Well, my commanders instructed them or me to tell them I'm not allowed to be on television, not allowed to do anything because I'm still up under the U.S. government contract. And if anything happens, then, there's some serious problems. And so, and plus at that time I was nervous as hell. I didn't want to do nothing, man. But I remember the Brooklyn Brawler at the time. He was, agent, whatever, and he was, "Hey, come on in. You're gonna do this." They gave me a script. I was supposed to read the script, and I went into this blue room, and I was gonna do a promo. And I remember Coach at the time. What's his name? Coach. I forget his last name.
Jonathan Coachman.
Yes. He was there, and he was like, "Yo, brother." He's like, "Brother, you got this. You can do this. You can do this." And they wanted me to read the script about something about military, and I was like, oh. And then I remember meeting Sergeant Slaughter. I was really marking out, really marking out. I was like, "Jonathan," and so he was right next to me, and he was talking to me. He was like, "So you were in the military, huh? And so maybe we're gonna do this thing together." And something. I was like, "Yo, this is Sergeant Slaughter talking to me." So, yeah, but I never got a chance to meet or do anything with Muhammad Hassan. I just knew that I was being slated for that because I was on contract at OVW, but I was getting roster pay, if that makes sense. Like a lot of guys down there were getting training pay, but my checks were like checks for being on the roster of Raw, either SmackDown. I was getting good money, and I hadn't even stepped in the ring. And I was like, "Yo," and I didn't know that until one day. I think Tommy Dreamer pulled me to the side, and he said, what is your contract like?" And I told him the X amount of dollars. And I said, "Why?" Because I thought everybody was getting the same amount that I was getting. He's like, "Oh." He just looked at me like, he said, "Ah." And I said, "What is that?" He said, "That's roster pay." I was like, "Oh." He said, we're trying to fast track you to either SmackDown or Raw." And I was like, "Yo," I went home. I was like, "Wow." And at that time, that's when I was really getting on the medicine. I was like, I was trying to hurry up, man. I was like, "Oh, this is about to happen." You talking about good vitamins? I was taking good vitamins then, boy. I was, and so, yeah, my pay was at that point. But yeah, like I said, I washed up because I remember the day that I did a promo in the military uniform or whatever, and I didn't like it. And I told Paul Heyman, I said, "I don't like this gimmick. I don't know if you guys are gonna call me Chili Willy, William Jones. What are you gonna call me?" And they didn't really know. And so the next couple of days, that's when I got a call from John Laurinaitis. He said, "Yo, Chili, Vince doesn't really like your promo. I think you need some more work. How about going down to Puerto Rico?" And at that time, I said, "Puerto Rico? I'm not going down there." I said, "I just got home from Iraq because I went straight from Iraq. I didn't even get time. I didn't even give myself time to uh, decompress. I went straight from Iraq, dropped my wife off in North Carolina one day. The next day, got back in my car and went to Louisville. So I'm still in military mode. You know what I mean? And when they told me that, I was like, "Nah, I'll just go home. I just go back to North Carolina." But they were gonna try to work with me and send me to Puerto Rico for a while to see what happened there. But I was like, "Nah, I'm going home."
Mm-hmm. You worked with Johnny Nitro, the man Morrison. The man had all the tools to be a world champion. Do you have any idea why he never reached that particular pinnacle?
Who's this? Johnny who? Johnny
John
Swinger?
Morrison, Johnny Nitro.
Oh,
Sorry,
Nitro. I'm
is it
sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Nitro?
yeah,
You
yeah,
did work
yeah,
with
yeah.
Swinger, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But Johnny Nitro, you mean, yeah. He was down to OBW. Yes. I don't know. Great look. Could go. He could be like, if you wanted him to do lucha style. Um, it's just one of those things, but I just don't know what happened. I mean, I thought he was gonna go straight to the top. You know what I mean? Great look. He wasn't bad on the mic. You got to understand it, and the viewers, they have to understand that in this business, it's like any other business. Some people get jealous, I think, of certain individuals. Johnny, to me, had it all, man. Why he's not, why haven't he been champion? You know, beats me. But if Miz, and I'm not knocking the Miz, because Miz can work and Miz can put people over and make, but so could Johnny. John Horson was great, man. He was good. I don't know why they didn't give him a chance. Same thing with Damian Sandow. You remember what's his real name?
Yep.
I forgot his name. Real nice to me. When he did that gimmick and they got him over, I thought, hey, Aaron, I think that's his name, Aaron.
Aaron Stevens.
Yes, Aaron Stevens. I thought maybe, man, they're gonna keep him. They're gonna, keep him and do something, give him a push. But for some reason, like I said, man, if they don't like you or some people are intimidated by you, you're not going nowhere. You're not going nowhere. So, people look at it and they say, well, why didn't someone like Lacey Evans get a push, get the thing that she wanted? And she was former military. And so maybe something that someone didn't like, you know, railroaded her from getting to where she needs to get to. And so it just depends on who you are, um, and if certain people like you, certain people don't like you. It's just the name of the game. They really, it's really like that. If they like you, you're in. If they don't, you're not. You're not in. And I don't know why he didn't get a push. He should have got a push though.
Yeah, politics. Well, we're coming to the end of our hour, but before, and I thank you for being so generous with your time, Willie. Before we do that, we have one fan question from Mr. Unknown. He wants to know: is there anyone you didn't get on with in ECW?
You mean that I didn't like?
Yes, sir.
No, I can't. I can't say no. No one. There. Yeah, no one. I didn't have any issues with no one in ECW. I knew my role, um, and like I said, I didn't really interact with the top guys. So that was maybe the good thing or whatever. There were some guys that they had their frictions because they've been there so long. But I didn't have an issue with no one. I was just there to do my job, and that was it. Because I think if I would have had an issue with someone, it would have been known. Because I'm not that type of person that's going to have an issue with you, and we don't figure it out some way somehow. I'm not a tough guy, but I'm not a punk either. So it's like, if I got an issue with you, we gonna talk it out, or we gonna do whatever we got to do. And and so I didn't have an issue with no one at the time. I just kept to the ring crew guys and did what I was told, and I had fun with it. Even though I was an older guy in ECW, I was still young. I was still a baby as a wrestler. So I just took my baby steps and just kept, knew my role.
In terms of social media, where can the fans find you? And do you have any upcoming appearances or things to get out there for the fans' knowledge?
No,
I know you're involved in wrestling down there, correct?
A little bit here in the Philippines. I'll go to the shows or whatever. But far as wrestling, in-ring wrestling, no, I'm not doing anything like that. I don't really, I'm not really on social media other than Facebook at William Chili Willie Jones. That's where you can find me at. And when I do, interviews like this, so I think I have one coming up on the 26th, the 24th, 23rd, I think, of September here on Facebook. Another one, but that's about it. I'm not really active, other than if people ask me to do an interview. Yeah, that's about it. Just trying to get my hand into some acting here in the Philippines. But other than that, that's about it.
Well, man, again, I appreciate your time, and we'll definitely stay in touch and keep on top of all your goings on. And do you have any final thoughts for the fans that remember you so fondly from your ECW run?
Oh man, I just thank each and every fan, each and every person that that has seen me wrestle or follow me back then up until now. I really appreciate you guys, and we as wrestlers before, we could not do this without your participation. Also, in helping us and spending your hard-earned money to come see us wrestle. So. If no one ever thanks you guys, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you have made my life, something great. I did something that I wanted to do as a child, and I did it. I'm not a champion, never been a champion of, anything, but in my world, in my own world, I'm a champion because I did it. A lot of people go out and they say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they never get a chance to do it, or they never stick to doing it. And so I just tell people, hey, if there's something you want to do, you really want to do it, don't let nothing stop you from doing it. Just do it. Try it. Even if it fails or you don't get to the level that you think you should got to the level of, at least you tried it. At least you make that step. So to all the fans out there, whoever, if you ever wanted to do something, just do it. Don't worry about what other people think about you. Just do it. And then that way, when your life is at a standstill, or you're, almost at the end, I guess you can just say, hey, I tried it, I did it, and I made the best of it. So I thank you guys, each and every one. And I thank you, Jack, for having me on, and God bless all of you.
Well, thanks again, Willie. It's been great as always, fans. That's it for this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you next time, folks.
Thank you.